Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. Check us out. A lot of our shows on the network are also on Roku TV. You are tuning into Negotiating Happiness. I'm your host, Adriana. And just like I always say, grab your coffee, grab your lunch, and come and have a discussion with us. This happens to be a pre-recorded episode, but we will be live in the comments. So if you have any questions, please feel free to leave us there and you will receive an answer. Today, I am here with Lindsay. Hello, Lindsay.
Hi, Adriana. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. Beautiful day.
Great. So, Lindsay, you have your business at Paper Creek Co. We wanted to sit down. I'm just going to do a quick introduction. So, Lindsay Slavin is the founder of Paper Creek Co. And she will share her journey from earning a BFA in visual arts to interning in paper conservation and bookbinding in Israel. That's super interesting. To working in archives and fine art handling and teaching bookbinding courses and retreats. She also will talk about her experience coaching businesses to achieve more time, money, and build a rockstar team in Niagara, and that is on the Canadian side. Lindsay's passion for the arts community led her to start Paper Creek Co., which specializes in creating beautiful washi paper with a wide variety of colors and textures. She explains that washi paper is not only aesthetically pleasing, but also sustainable method of paper making, as the plants used to create it grow back each year and can be harvested for up to 40 years. I can't wait to dive in. Did I miss anything?
No, you got it.
So, Lindsay, when did you start on this journey?
Well, when I was, I would say my Bachelor of Fine Arts, I was a printmaker and got into painting as well. But I was introduced to washi paper from the technician who ran the little store that would have some different supplies. And so he said, I'm going to show this to you. And it was this gorgeous, very, very delicate paper. And I'm like, that looks like wrapping paper and it's never going to last under the press. And he's like, no, this is not that. It is very strong. It is really absorbent and it is going to make your prints just glow. And I'm like, okay, so I bought some and they come in like massive sheets. So I bought this and he was absolutely right. It's this Japanese paper. It's called washi, which means, it just means like paper made from kozo, and which is the plant that grows in Japan. And it also grows in various places in Asia as well. Mm-hmm. But mostly it is the Japanese who will make the paper. It's the paper making technique is right. Over 1,000 years old. Right. So then I was printing with that, and my first job out of art school was as an archivist, and I did records management, but I also managed to do an internship there at the Baha'i World Center in Israel, in Haifa. Amazing. For 3 months, and that's where I learned bookbinding, but also I learned the properties of paper and how chemistry affects paper and the different things to consider, what different kinds of paper are good for. And then I moved back to Canada, and my husband and I moved to Quebec, just north of Ottawa. And I worked for Art Zone Fine Art Services, where we built crates and we did a lot of handling of artwork, shipping it and installing in galleries. So, which I have always loved. In art school, whenever there was a gallery show, people would just be like, can I just drop it off the artwork? I'm like, you got it. Just leave it. I love hanging it. I love the way things look. I love the presentation of things so that it tells a story. And so working at Art Zone was wonderful. And now I have, so then there's quite a lot, Adriana. My career, honestly, is very It's a very windy path. So
But that's why you're a perfect guest, because we're going to answer some questions. We're going to dive into your experience. So I feel like I did a lot of stuff before too, before I decided to work for myself. And sometimes people get bogged down with those details instead of looking at what they want. So I'm hoping that maybe we'll inspire some people to open up their own business, right? And I actually did some research about this. For specifically for creative small businesses, because your business is very creative and it sounds like such a passion project too, right? It's not just a business, it is a passion. It's linked to, you know, your art background, which is amazing. So according to Stats Canada, this was kind of dated 2016, there are approximately 1.1 million creative businesses in Canada. And just remember, Canada's population is only about 33 million. So that is
population of California.
wild. Yeah. And in the US, I looked at the National Endowment for the Arts. Their stats are a little bit more recent for 2020. The creative industries contribute to 877.3 billion to the economy in the US. That is wild. So if somebody's telling you to not, you know, the arts don't pay bills, they're lying. You just need to find a better way of doing it. You know what I mean? They're just being a negative Nancy, and you don't need that in your life. So you are here to bust some myths.
I think I came at this from this has been cooking in the back of my mind for a number of years, over a decade. I went to I've always loved the Japanese paper. I haven't been printmaking for many years, but I went to Montreal with my family a few years ago, and I went to this store called Au Papier Japonais, which is
French.
Japanese paper. And
right.
for all you non-French speakers, Au Papier Japonais, and it was run by a friend of a friend, and Stan and Lorraine Phillips. And Lorraine Phillips is a beautiful artist. Check her out. She actually, Lorraine Pritchard is her art name that she goes by. And they have this beautiful store full of Japanese paper. And I just fell in love. And I thought, I really want to have a store like this someday. And it has just stayed there as a kernel. And it's just been cooking. So I got to a point in my life, I was like, feeling, you know, after the pandemic, I thought something needs to change. Something drastic needs to change in my life. And I think,
just to interrupt you for a second, I'm feeling, every time I interview people, that is such a common feeling. The pandemic brought on such change. I know that it's collective trauma with the T, people, trauma with the T. And it was rough for a lot of people. A lot of people died. I understand. And we are privileged to be able to talk about opening businesses because we are in a position to do so. So I recognize all of that. But I want to say that in the entrepreneur world, COVID brought on so many of these wonderful businesses that maybe would have been delayed or never opened. You know, it just brought on so much change. So I just want people to recognize that your ideas are valid. You don't need a pandemic to make it happen. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. It opened up, you know, and also turned 45. So it was like, all right.
We don't talk about age on this show.
Don't do it now.
We don't talk about age on this show. I'm kidding.
It's looking me in the face. But so I thought, something really, really needs to change. And what else the pandemic did is because we became reliant on online, that I felt my kids they're still in the house. And so I considered the idea, do I want to open a brick and mortar store? And I thought, having been a business coach, as you mentioned, I know the commitment that it takes to have a store, to have a building. And it's not just, walk in at 8:00 in the morning and then shut it up at 5:30 at night. It's much more than that. And I thought I need to be absolutely 100% in to that commitment, so that but what I know I want in my life right now is which I also learned from the pandemic, is I want to spend more time with my family, with my girls, with my husband. I don't want to be what my life was before is leaving in the morning, we all leave the house, which is fine. And then I get home just in time to like huck down dinner and then run off to take kids wherever they need to be. And it's exhausting. And I remember thinking to myself, I just need the world to stop. Okay. So I'm sorry, because I think it was my fault. Because all of a sudden the world stopped. And it went to like, I remember thinking that in like February.
In the universe,
it's
Lindsay.
my fault.
We talk a lot about manifesting and doing all of these, like, I love the woo-woo stuff, right? Or like, you put it in the universe.
Who knows?
But it delivered for you in some way, even if the world itself didn't stop, your world could have, right? Like, you put it out there in the universe. I just want to share here your website. I want to see if I can present it. Oh, there was having some technical difficulties, guys.
Well, while you're doing that, I'll fill in the kind of the rest of my thinking. There was that what it did was also it opened up to a lot more people, a lot more the idea of shopping online and getting things delivered. Yeah. So this way became a very real possible, a real option to have an online store. And so here it is.
Yeah, here it is.
This is called Chiogami paper, this colorful paper at the top.
Honestly, my mom's a tailor, so when I looked at this, I was like, this is fabric. This is not paper.
It is. It's just and it's so robust. It's not like stiff like crafting paper, like the scrapbooking paper. Yeah. And it looks so delicate, but it is very, very strong. It will go under a press. It takes watercolors beautifully, much different than watercolor paper that is on cotton rag, which is what we're used to. What we have more, it's a Western style made of trees. Yeah. So we've got basically 4 different categories. Yeah, we've got the fine art paper sheets, and then different assortments. And what the assortments are great for, and what I really enjoy being able to sell these, is that it's a great way for people to try. Because when they come in 2 by 3 foot sheets of paper, you're like, well, I don't know. But you can try a package of paper that has up to a dozen different kinds. Play with it, try it out, wreck it, and then see what you like. Yeah. And it's so interesting. And I am famous for trying all kinds of artsy stuff. I do love art. I've always painted, and then I kind of had to drop that because it's very time consuming. I've done a lot of Cricut stuff. So like the assortment type of packages I'm very familiar with, because you get the same thing in like vinyl or whatever else. So I agree, if you are a beginner, the assortments are probably your best way to see like kind of what you want to do, what you like. And they're probably, correct me if I'm wrong, they're probably more cost efficient at the beginning when you don't know like what you want, right? It's definitely, well, it's more fun, honestly, to have an assortment to start to try out with, because there's much less pressure. Right. And you're not stuck with it. If you start to use it and you go, well, this is not working for me, I don't like it, it's not giving the effect that I want, then you're not stuck with a huge sheet. For sure. Yeah. And sorry, go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say, like there's the fine art intro, you can see kind of peeking out there at the top. That's a really excellent one. Japanese paper comes in many different tones and weights. And some of it has little, if you scroll back up, you'll see some of them have little, see on the one that has little chunks in it? Oh, scroll down a little bit again. Yeah. There you go. That one there. See, it's got little chunks, and that's called chiri. And what happens is they make the paper, and they pull out all the little bits of bark and twig, and it's a very time consuming, and it must be done by hand. It's not a process that can be done by machine. So they pull out all of the twigs and the bits of bark, and then then you get the one on the left there, the usukuchi light. You can see it has no chunks in it at all. Yeah. Well, the Kanari chiri and the Gampi there also started out that way, and then they put some of those pieces back in to the pulp. So when they make it, it's like that's the quality that they want. They want to have those little bits of texture in it, but because it is all very fine, you can't feel it. It's not like chunks. It's not going to interfere with your art making. And I think that's that was what I expected when I first used it. Pardon me.
Yeah.
But it is so smooth that it doesn't affect your artwork as well, but it really adds to it. And so I always encourage artists when I'm talking to them, it's like, think about your image now, instead of just having a white background, but like, think about what would the texture add to it? What would the tone bring to it?
Right, right. So this is super interesting. The only things that I know about it, so we're getting so much education here, is that washi traditional Japanese paper has been produced for over 1,300 years. And it makes sense to me when you're talking about how delicate it is, how you have to do it manually and whatnot. And it's such a niche business that I wanted to see what the actual stats would be, because somebody might be like, oh no, this is too niche. This is more like my hobby. I don't want to start my business because I'm not going to make any money. But in 2019, Japanese art sales reached 15.4 billion, which was up 4% from the previous year. So do not let people discourage you. This was from Art Price. I think it was updated in 2020. Do not let people discourage you, because obviously you can make your business what you want it to be, right? It's super interesting. Like, you even go into detail and you can learn about it on your website here. I feel like your website is very complete, right? Like, you can find the information, there's the store, even if it's very welcoming to people that are brand new as well, right? So I don't know, take this as a template, check out Lindsay's store. It's at papercreek.ca. That's papercreek.ca. And if you are looking to, I don't know, maybe you're looking to get into washi, great. If not, take it as like a template of, here's how to approach a niche business, right? And Lindsay, you had mentioned that you have a business coaching background as well, which is perfect.
Yes, I think if I had started this before that experience, it would have turned out much differently. But there's two sides to think of it, right? It's this is a passion for me. I really enjoy doing this. I love serving my customers. I love it when people say, I'm looking for this kind of paper. Can you help me? Or I got a sample of this kind of paper. And actually, this just happened very recently. Somebody had a sample of Japanese paper. And they said, but I don't know what the name of it is, but I love it. It's wonderful for painting and collage. So I was like, and so she mailed it to me. And so I was able to look at it and consult with one or two other people, and we nailed down what it was. And so now we're able to order that for her and do that custom kind of order. And my supplier is very happy to help me do custom orders like that. So
that's amazing. Yeah. That's amazing that you can go that custom, right, for somebody. I did see on your website that you offer like a contact form for people who do want to kind of get into that custom sort of order, which is wonderful.
Yeah. If you don't know what you're looking for, that's totally fine. Just reach out. That is my absolute, that's one of my favorite parts about it is connecting with people to help them find what they're looking for. Yeah.
And from a business standpoint, like here we talk about not just the good, but we talk about the ugly as well in hopes to learn. Could you tell our listeners what you would consider to be your biggest challenge, and how do you overcome it as a business owner?
No, that's my dirty secret. I don't want to tell anybody that.
Oh, didn't I tell you that this is what we do? We air out our dirty secrets.
For sure. I would say that and this is what I've, learned as what I saw in the various different businesses that I worked in as an employee, and what I saw with my clients, business coaching, and is that there is the love what you do, right? And become very, very good at that. And then there's the business side of it. And if you don't know, there's a lot, that is a skill as well. And so as business coach, my job was not to help people become a better, electrician. It was to help them become a better business owner.
Yep. Exactly.
So Yeah. And so I think everybody here who has a business is going, yes, I know what you mean. Because there's the accounting, there's the managing your time, there's the focusing, because we know it's very easy to be like, oh, I should be doing this, I should be doing that, I should be doing this, and then feeling bad for neglecting the other things.
I regularly work with business owners that run their business out of their head. And I always say that that's where like people like you and I come in to help with operations, to be like, if you're not there, your business can't run out of your head. So you need to have support, you need to have systems, and a lot of people could use help with somebody like you, a coach, where they would get some of those I guess I would say techniques to cope with taking other people's advice, because that's the first skill you learn, is you need to let go. And I've struggled with this too. And I recently joined a mastermind because I want to learn more, right?
Great
and even,
idea.
Yeah, and even though I'm making like steady income and it's great and I love it and I love the flexibility, I want more for my business. And it's really hard because you already have this idea of what you want it to be like, and then a coach comes in with outsider's perspective, which makes total sense, and say, well, actually, you need to tweak it this way. And you're like, oh, and you can't get past that. That is your first skill to learn, is how to digest new ways of doing things as a business owner, right? Even though you've been successful and even though you're good at what you do, like you said, somebody has to teach you how the business part of it works. It's all in the background, right?
Yep, to help you with your team and your money. Actually, the first thing I did when I started Paper Creek was I invited a few people to be on an advisory board, my executive advisory board, and they are people who I trust and that I know are on my side and will tell me the truth if they think I'm going off onto like down a rabbit hole for which there is nothing but dirt.
Right.
They'll tell me that.
That's great. That's such a great idea. And I always tell people about there's room for all of us. So there's no reason why you can't network with the people in your own industry as well, and you can help each other, because not your ideal client is not going to be the next coach's ideal client, for example. Or for me, I'm like one leg into like online business manager, and I'm still one leg into like the VA. There are so many of us out there. And I love, and people that run agencies, they're obviously very successful. I love not negotiating. Oh my God. I love networking with people, right? And getting that sort of perspective. It's like, oh, you do it this way. That's so interesting, right? Like I do it this way. I want to like teach people it's not about gatekeeping. I'm not saying publish your supplier list. I'm saying be open to learning from other people, and from like having an advisory board. What a great idea. But not everybody would have that kind of access to multiple brains, right? Like
I'll tell you who's on my advisory board. It's my sister. I have 3 of them, and one of them is on my advisory board.
Yeah.
And my husband, and a mentor of mine who I've worked with in the past, and he's been very, very open to me and helpful. But they're people that I know are emotionally on my side, and sometimes they give me ideas. I'm like, no, I don't think you'll get it, but they do help me verbalize my thoughts, verbalize my focus, and for me to be openly honest and say, guys, I don't want to admit this, but I'm feeling very scattered.
Right.
And I feel like there is a dozen different directions that are critically important for me to go into, but I need to narrow it down to 2 for this quarter. I need to narrow it down to 2, and I don't know which ones are the right idea. And they say, okay, tell us about them. And then my husband says, hold on. And he runs up and he gets a whiteboard and he starts writing them down, and then we erase things. So it's just even having people who they don't have to be experts. My husband is a teacher and my sister works in public service. So they're not even business owners. They're not in any way otherwise involved in my business, but
Right. It's such a good tip to have an advisory board for sure. And you don't have to do it on your own. And
Definitely
it's okay
don't try.
to, and it's okay to accept advice from other people. You just have to remember that when you're the one doing the work, we're often in our own little bubble. And we need to remember that people exist outside that bubble that might not see things the way we do, right?
Yeah.
That's a great tip. So how do you, on the other side of things, how do you prioritize self-care and like mental health while running a business?
Well, I think I feel like I had to go through some burnout first. I have had very high stress, this very rushed, very urgent, very emotional. I've lived that, and I don't like it.
I hear you. Like I looked up some stats here because sometimes you feel alone. I want everybody to know that you're not alone. So 50% of entrepreneurs report experiencing burnout, and that's from the Harvard Business Review in 2019.
Yeah.
As a comparison, in Canada, 73% of entrepreneurs reported experiencing mental health concerns. And that's from the Canadian Mental Health Association in 2019. In the US, we're talking about employees, like workers, 67% of workers reported experiencing burnout in 2020. I mean, this is a very common issue. So how do you deal with it?
So I think having gone through that, and then and this is a lot I learned through coaching, is being very, multitasking is not a thing. It's not. You cannot multitask. Our brains are only made to think about one thing at a time. And so
there's a myth, sorry to interrupt, there's a myth there that you just busted for us, is that I was hearing about how women's brains are wired to multitask, and I think that's a lie. I think that we are expected to multitask, which is very different than what you're saying, right?
I think what we can do, what people can do, and maybe women are better at doing this, is thinking about a lot of things very quickly and going from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing to thing to thing. But it's different. Because when you start thinking about something, there's some rev up time to it to get into whatever you do. When you're in the zone, right? When you're feeling like I'm so immersed in what I'm doing, then you forget how much time passes, right? When you're in that zone. Well, when you get interrupted by your phone or by an email notification, or you allow yourself to be interrupted by your phone because it goes ding and you're like, okay, hold on a second. And then you're like, all right, now I have to deal with that. All right, I'm going to just quickly send an email. I'm just going to do this. All right. And now, and I see this other thing has come in, and I'm just going to quickly deal with that.
I did this to you before we started recording. That is so funny. I had to answer the phone for a common person that we know, and I had to do exactly the same thing. It happens without you thinking about it.
It does. It really does. So we have to be, what I found is, okay, and so then it takes, here's another statistic for you. It takes an average of 7 minutes to get back into the zone. So if you spend 7 minutes getting into that emotion, that zone where you're like fully immersed and you are just killing it, and then you get interrupted, well, it takes the time that you take away, and then another 7 minutes to get back into that. So we're stealing from ourselves. So up in Canada here, we have, do you know Stuart McLean?
No, I don't.
Oh, the Vinyl Cafe from CBC Radio. He's passed away in the recent years, I think in the middle of the pandemic. Very sad, amazing storyteller. And he told the story. He has this family, anyways, look him up. But there's a story he tells about a girl who goes to plant trees up north, and everybody plants like maybe a bag of trees a day. But there's this one guy there, he plants like 10 bags a day. And she's like, how do you do this? And she notices, and he's like, well, when it's time to plant, I plant. I don't chit chat with people. I just plant. And when it's time to eat, I eat. And when it's time to socialize, I socialize. And when it's time to sleep, I sleep. I don't, I just do one thing at a time, and it's always stayed with me. So I think the key here, and my biggest learning, and how I stay out of the burnout and the heart palpitations and the panic attacks is, and the sleepless nights, is I make a list, and I have a system, but I just do one thing at a time. And when I'm doing that thing, turn off, I have no email alerts. My computer makes no noise when emails come in. I don't mix things up. I have a notebook for different jobs that I do, and just do that thing. And when people say, do you have, when you available? I'll say, this is when I'm available. And if I'm not available, I don't give them that time, because it's already, it's given to my family, and I decide I have a standing appointment. And as far as anybody's concerned, it's like, that's that time with my kids, and that's my time. And I don't even tell people what it's for, like, oh, it's with my kids, because I don't want to be like, sorry, it's with my kids.
No,
it's like,
and you're just exercising boundaries, right? We talk about boundaries a lot too. It's about boundaries, blocking time. I'm a big believer of time blocks. I'm still learning on how to keep those promises of time blocks. It is a continuous learning journey. But I do want to say, from my perspective, from the things that I do, from the services that I do, it is easier when you have systems in place. So like you said, your computer doesn't make noise when emails come in, or your phone is like on the other side of the room. I have clients who book time to do their client work in a specific day, and I know that I can't reach them for that period of 3 hours. It's very doable, right? What I do is I set up people with these CRMs that can do a lot of that. So for example, I don't want to take discovery calls every day. So I set up different scheduling links. So depending on what we're doing, like for example, if we're networking, I'll give you my networking link, which has specific times that I'm available, but my discovery calls are only available twice a week. Or my client calls are only available in the middle of the day, in the middle of the week, and like 3 days, right in the middle of the week, because I find that's where the bulk of the work is getting done, from Tuesday to Thursday. Mondays and Fridays are a write-off. I don't care who you are. You're operating the same way. This might be an unpopular opinion, but can't tell you how many entrepreneurs I know that are like, Mondays are rough and Fridays I don't work, right? So you kind of have to put these systems in place, and I think it's such a good investment, right? Like I work with ClickUp, I work with Dubsado, I work with a bunch of financial platforms as well. I've worked with other CRMs in the past, HubSpot, what's the other one? Honeybook. Like I've set up all kinds of platforms to help people structure their business in that way. So it's so good to hear, like the reassurance of, this is how you stay sane. You put boundaries in place, and you put systems that help you keep those boundaries.
Part of those systems, I would say too, are deciding how you're going to communicate that, because they only work if we stick to it. It only works. And so very often it's like, well, this is like my best client, or this is my, I don't want them to think that I don't think they're important.
I'm guilty of this. I'm 100% guilty of this. Yeah.
And so, and I think that all the time. And so when I get like emails from customers for Paper Creek at 10 o'clock at night, well, I love my business and I love my customers, and I want to reply to them right away.
Right.
And maybe I have the time. Maybe my kids are in bed, or they're busy and nobody needs me. And so I will reply to it, but I won't send it until the morning, because I don't want them to get into that habit, because a lot of times at night, I don't want to feel obligated to do work. That is my home time.
Right.
But just leave it. And if people know what your expectations are. So like when I will always tell people, I will always get back to you within 24 hours. So that's a line I use. I'll always get back to you within 24 hours. And I do. And then if people say, when are you available? I will say, I'm available from this time. This is how I'm going to say it, right? So when I think about that standing appointment that I have with my kids, that one day a week, I'll say, I've decided I'm going to say, I have a commitment. I'm already committed for that time.
Yeah.
I'm not available.
Yeah. It's
and
just
it makes it easier.
that block is just as important as the next block of time. That's what I'm hearing. Yeah, totally. So we're just gonna do a quick pause for a station ID for those that are jumping in halfway. We're listening to Negotiating Happiness, and I'm your host, Adriana, and I'm here with Lindsay. We are live on the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. We are also on Roku TV if you want to check out some of our other shows on the network. We are pre-recording this, but we will be live in the comments, so feel free to put in your questions. I will do my best to answer them. Or if you have any feedback for me or Lindsay, guys, please keep it to constructive criticism. We will do our best to answer. We were just to give you a quick summary, Lindsay has worked in, to be a business coach. She is also a consultant now for businesses, and she runs her own washi paper Japanese art business. She has a store at papercreek.ca, and it's Paper Creek Co. That is her business name, and she is imparting all of this knowledge on how to run everything and still keep sane. Basically, that's where we left off. Let's see here. So my next question would be, now I'm having technical difficulties. My brain's not at 100% yet. How do you stay on top of industry trends and adapt to changes in the market? Because you have such different markets depending on what services you're doing. I also personally know that you're very good with doing video, right? Video editing and whatnot. Are you still offering those services?
Yeah. I still enjoy editing for video. So small, long thing. Yeah.
You've got so many markets here. So how do you keep on top of like industry trends?
Well, for Paper Creek, I try to say very involved in the community itself and always finding that community. Where is my community? For example, on Instagram. When I was coaching, my market was not in Instagram at all. It was LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So, that's where you create content and that's where you engage. In-person networking. But one of my markets, one of the environments where my target market is Instagram. So I will engage there. I constantly follow people and I look, and then I just shift to what I see is happening. And so when I see people making comments, I will try to use that language because as you said, like Japanese paper is very niche. And so, but the art world is very, very broad. So what is I have a vocabulary, I have a lexicon, but what is the lexicon of my target market? What words are they using? And that's the language that I have to adopt.
Yeah, we talked about this before about like who is reading those posts, right? Like, is it academia? Okay. Is it, your regular Joe? Is it somebody who already knows about washi art, Japanese art, or is it somebody like somebody who could be a big supplier for you or a big seller for you? So it just depends like who you're targeting. And how do you I guess, do you ever have to like change suppliers, or like do you ever have to go searching for, I don't know if the word is right, like trendy patterns and like that kind of thing?
No, not really. No, I have one major supplier. And so I stick to that. And that was that was a decision that I made with my mentor and also my
advisory board.
Yeah. And that because my supplier right now, my major supplier, has a great diversity of things. And so I had to look at, all right, I'm an online store. So what can I ship? So now there's really great, like lovely objects and things. So I thought, can I ship that at a low rate? Because that's where I'm at right now. I want to what are the barriers to buying online? A lot of times it's shipping. So how can I what can I stock? What can I promote that can be shipped at a cost that I have some control over?
Right.
So that's what I carry. And so when I see what people and deciding what my target market is, and just looking at analytics, any kind of data that you ever gather in your finances or your marketing, you analyze that data, and the whole purpose of it is to make a decision.
Yeah. So let's give a real life example. I agree with what you're saying. My clients, so some of my creative clients are all on Instagram, right? And for me, it's shifted where I have gotten clients recently from Instagram. So because I've been putting more effort into it, to be honest. But one, change your Instagram account to a business account because you get access to a dashboard of analytics, right? So that would be my first tip for anybody. And two, check it out. I can tell you for a fact that most of the people that interact with my stuff are all women between the ages of 25 and 40, right?
Yeah.
Like, figure out who's listening to you, how you can use that, and how you can continue to nurture that. So my language, because I am in that category, I'm just lucky that I'm already using the same kind of language. I'm going through the same kinds of things in life, so I can then relate easier with that, right? Your dashboard tells you. So the moment I started posting more and I invested in having somebody help me post more, it shows. In the last month, I've reached 900, almost 1,000 new accounts, which is great, right? Whereas before, I don't even know what my numbers were. So how can you make that decision? If it's going down, then maybe you don't need that extra person to do the posting, or we need to tweak something. So like, this is how, you're right. Analytics dictate like where you put your resources and how much of those resources are actually making a difference for you. So that is one really, really quick and fast and free way to get data is your Instagram account. I believe Meta on Facebook has similar capabilities with your dashboard. YouTube does as well, I know for a fact. The other thing is, if you're generating from your website, you definitely use Google Analytics. And just a heads up for anybody that was using Google Analytics before, they've come out with Google Analytics 4. So they're going to merge everything. If you don't go in and transfer everything, you'll basically start from scratch, from fresh. Maybe you're fine with that. But I believe July 1st is the deadline.
If you have a Shopify store as well, then you need to switch over from, I think, Universal to Google too.
Yeah. And what that does, for anybody that doesn't know, Google gives you a tag, which is just a serial number that you then encode in your homepage, in your website, and it tracks things. So for example, from really looking just super quickly, not spending a lot of time, I know that most of my traffic comes from Canada and the US, and I have a few other places like Turkey and India, right? Is that appropriate for my website now? No, you can tell it. You can tell it if I'm prioritizing this area. You can tell it to do a lot of things. Because remember, people are searching on Google. So they have control over who sees what, right? So great point about listening to your analytics and using them. If you're not, your competitors are. You're going to lose out, right?
Something else I'd point out is understanding that what your conversion rate is. So paying attention to what is leading to conversion. The conversion from a viewer, let's stick with Instagram, a viewer into a customer. And understand that sometimes it's funny, you know how there's like consistence, like the 80-20 rule, it just keeps showing up, right? Like it is actually a universal like law.
People don't know what you're talking about. Look at this.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's true.
Yeah,
it's true.
That's what Lindsay's talking about. You can get this on Amazon and on Audible if you're listening to books. I think it's on Kindle too.
Yeah, it's a principle, it's a number, it's a ratio that's been around, was really discovered is in a few hundred years ago. It's not new. And it's really things like you will put 80% of your energy into 20% of your customers. Or 80% of your income comes from 20% of your customers.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. Things like that. So, but what I mean is that kind of ratio is understanding too, and this isn't the 80-20 rule, but it's a number that I see consistently show up is 3 months, 90 days from conversion from marketing to sales.
Which happens to be a whole quarter.
Yeah, exactly. So if you take your foot off, so if you are consistently posting and you're like, but nothing's happening, like just be cool, just keep being consistent, be consistent always.
Right.
And then when your sales, when your conversion does go up, and it will, if you're paying attention to your analytics and you're not just throwing stuff at the wall, random things, but if you're putting out value in, then you will see those conversions. But then when those conversions do come up, don't take your foot off the gas. Just keep being consistent. Otherwise, you're going to end up like, it's going to be a vacillating of sales effort and then sales.
I've seen people, it's just so funny you mentioned that. I've seen people who stepped on the gas, they started seeing results, and then they put the brakes on.
Yeah.
They did not keep going, and they call that an industry lull. And I'm like, no, it's not an industry lull because your competitor is still going.
It's
you not being consistent, and it's okay, but like this is when you need people to help you to be consistent because you can't do it all yourself, right? I understand. Imagine like go, and you just, I just need a break. Like I need a break from this. Cool. What are you going to do about it? Like, what are you going to get somebody to help you do it? Are you going to, stop? You're going to lose out. Like it takes so much planning. It's so much more than just doing the work. And I realized that I showed this book, but I didn't say anything about it. So it's the 80-20 principle. I have the 3rd edition, which apparently has 4 new chapters in it. It's called The Secret to Achieving More with Less by Richard Koch. I don't know how to say this. Koch is his last name. Richard Koch. I don't get any. I'm just doing some free promo now. I don't get anything from this book.
We will expect a thank you card from Richard.
Yeah, I expect a thank you card from Richard, but no, but for real. I mean, if he wants to come on the show, that'd be great. But it talks about all that what Lindsay mentioned, and it explains like the uses of time. Just remember, like time is your most valuable asset. It's not your equipment or whatever you do your work with. It's time. It's how you use your time that matters, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you showed that book, Adriana, because something I would also advise massively is to keep reading. Always read.
Oh yeah.
And keep learning. And even if you think, oh, I don't have time to read, do make the time. Because there is something that somebody has figured out, like Richard here has figured out, and he's so excited about it and made such a difference in his life that he wrote a book about it. It only cost you, 20 or $30, but it's.
Oh yeah, I think it was like 25 at that point, but it's not.
And if you only can take like 1 or 2 nuggets from each book you read, then like what kind of difference would that make in your business?
I want to show you guys something real quick before we get to the more fun question before we go. I want to show you guys the other book that Lindsay, I don't know if you know this one, but I've talked about it before in my show and I realized I've never showed it. There we go. So this is, again, I don't get anything from this. I've just read the book. It's called Burnout, The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle. And it's by Emily Nagoski. She's a PhD, and Amelia Nagoski, a DMA. I don't actually know what DMA is. I wonder if it's master's or anyway, they're brilliant. In this book, they spend like the first 2 chapters talking about how as a society we never complete the stress cycle, and I never thought about stress as a cycle. How good do you feel? So you had like a rough day, whatever. How good do you feel to like when you release all those things? And some people do it by going to the gym, some people do it by like dancing away and singing away their issues, and then it gives you real life examples, and they do focus more on women having this extra, like the mental load and whatnot. and they give you real life examples of people or characters and how they deal with the stress cycle. And if you listen to it, it's very entertaining. I love the way that they've done this on the audiobook. But even the paperback, look at that. It's under $10. That's 10 Canadian dollars. So it's even less in this
basically free American.
Yeah. And it shows that the audiobook is $0 for me because I have Audible, but I'm sure you could also purchase it. You don't need the subscription. You can just purchase a one-time book if you want to listen to it. Highly recommend. If you don't know this book, we read it in one of our other coaching sort of situation, and I love it, and I love that it was recommended to us. But we are getting close to our stop time here, so I want to know what Lindsay does. Not mom Lindsay, not entrepreneur Lindsay, just Lindsay. What does she do that makes her happy, or that kind of makes all of this worth it? I want to know the fun stuff.
Oh, well, a couple of things. Like I do some things that I do for fun. Like my parents have a farm not far from here, and they have horses, so I'll go riding sometimes, and not as often as I would like. But I also have do you know, I really like just doing things, like keeping my hands always, like having things that need to be done. I actually really enjoy. I do.
You're describing work, Lindsay.
I know, but I was thinking a lot about this, honestly, about your question. I'm like, well, I play guitar. I learned how to play guitar, and I really love it. I play electric guitar. I have an art studio, and so I, will and I have lots of different materials, and so I'll experiment with the paper that I have and see what can be made from it, so that I can, take pictures of it as well.
Your happiness outlet is like a creative outlet. Is that what I'm hearing?
It's a busyness, and it is creative. It's active. My family, we have, and I know this isn't probably like the right answer, but like
there is no right answer. I've had people
my family
tell me that they wake up at 5 a.m. and work out, and that's when they're happy. And I'm like, oh my God, like, why would you do that? So there is no right answer. So continue. My families, we have some investment properties, and I'm effectively the property manager for that. So when, apartment needs to be painted, I'm like, okay, let's go. Let's go do that. Let's go fix the shower. You like being productive. Yes. You like being productive, I think is what it is. Yeah. Do you travel?
I do. I love traveling.
Okay. How do you travel? Like, are you the type that will, we don't backpack anymore because we're not in our 20s, but do you just like DIY it, or do you go to a resort? Like, how do you travel?
No, I like to go places like and be it's almost always get on a plane and go somewhere. My sisters and stuff, they really enjoy going to like a resort and just like, give me a beach, and I'm like, I'm thinking like, yeah, I'd like a beach for a day or two. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
But I really like going into the town and seeing, how do people live here?
Yeah.
What does their life look like? And
I always go off resort because I'm the same way.
Yeah.
Like, my partner, my family, they enjoy going to the beach, and I'm just like, okay, 2 days. Can we go see the village now? Or can we go see like something else? Right. I totally agree with you. I can't just sit there.
Yeah, I got to go when I was after I finished high school. I was like, I don't want to get a job, and I don't want to go to school yet. I'm so done. I need a break.
Yeah.
So I volunteered. I volunteered for a year in Thailand, and in the country there, and it was wonderful, and it was very like 8 hours from Bangkok, and I really enjoyed. And people knew where I lived, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you're the Palang from Uban Pantip." I was like, "Okay, it's not creepy at all, but okay." And
it's a community. It's a community. That's how a community acts. So I totally know what you're talking about.
It was great.
Yeah.
And so my favorite pictures that I have are like, in the morning, and the kids going to school, and the dad with the motorcycle, and on the 3 kids on the motorcycle taking them to school, and laundry, and the smell of the laundry being done is,
oh my gosh,
just those life things.
It's so funny. You're describing so many sensory things, like what you're seeing, what you're smelling, what you're feeling. I am the same. I love the feel of sun on my skin. Like, I could be a cat and just sunbathe. not forever, but that's my sensory thing. I feel like
Yeah.
I'm recharging when I'm under the sun. And my other thing is openness. So like I love going and seeing like different bays or, you know, cliffs and whatever else.
Yeah.
Like I'd love to see that. I feel like I'm because I'm getting older. I gravitate towards for everybody listening, Lindsay is like shushing me. You're like, don't talk about that. I gravitate towards like the simpler lifestyle. So I love to see like in Spain, you know, they're on the coast, like they have to take a siesta. You can't do anything under the blazing sun. I get it.
Yeah.
Or my next on my list would be like Greece or something in the islands where everything is like, you know, I love here how it's called farm to table, but there it's just like life, right? Like everything is sourced manually and we still do like agriculture the way we did it, you know, a couple hundred years ago. So I love to see that because my life is like go, 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 right? So it's so funny how it's similar to what you're describing with your experience in Thailand. You know, kids are going to school, people are doing laundry. It just brings back good memories. Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Well, I wanted to thank you so much for coming on and spending some time with us. It's been very interesting learning about, you know, the Japanese art and how you approach business and how you approach burnout. I'm really hoping that people will see the value and some of the tips that you've given them. And also, I'm so glad that you mentioned the book because I haven't yet. And I hope that we get some questions when we do this live on Monday. And yeah, thank you so much, Lindsay.
Thank you so much, Adriana. This has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate it.
I love it. I love it that you're having fun on it too. Well, everybody tune in next Monday. That is 12 CST or 1 p.m. Eastern Time, EST, for another episode of Negotiating Happiness. Have a good one, everybody.